Hey, hello everybody. My name is Petr Jezevec. I'm a UX designer at QEcom, and today, like you, I'm here to celebrate the oh my God, I'm here to celebrate the World Interaction Design Day that was organized by Asociace UX. As you may know, our topic this year will be culture and sustainability. Okay, how to make it better for everyone, to make more out from it, how to use it to make a road better for everyone that's here. So this is what we will learn today, and how to make it relevant to our daily work. Okay, so we'll have great people here talking. First will be Jana, that will do her first talk here. So yeah, enjoy, and please, Jana, you can come.
Hi, my name is Jana. Thanks for a beautiful introduction. My surname is Hřebecká, and it's really hard to pronounce it, so I'm Jana. And I would like to talk to you about sustainable design as never-ending quest for balance and inclusion. I'm a service designer from Pábení, and sustainability in design is somehow my passion for the past few years. So let's have a look. So, sustainable is somehow a new black. If you watch the world around you, you probably see that sustainability is written almost everywhere. You can see it in the highest politics, like the recovery from COVID-19 will be definitely 100% sustainable. As well, you can see it in the deepest swamps of greenwashing, like H&M, the biggest producer of fast fashion, is as well sustainable and 100% cautious about their, thank you, about their production. But I'm not here to sorry, Jezevec Petr Pouchlý is also here, and he is making a great audience, so thank you, Peter. I'm not here to trash H&M, I'm here to tell you something about sustainable design. So what sustainability really means, I believe that you've seen this picture at least once in your professional designer life, that design somehow is written in a sweet spot between desirability of a user, feasibility, and viability. But I kind of believe that this is not enough, and we as designers should add this responsibility as a layer above these principles. Because we as designers have this responsibility to think about the outcomes of our design. It's not only about designing the best app or the best function or the best product. It's also about thinking about what it creates in the world, what materials we use, what services we incorporate in our design. And this is basically it. So I would like to tell you a story. I would like to tell you a story about a designer and a chair and what happened in the past 100 years. So 100 years ago, we as designers designed, let's say, chair, and the main focus was on aesthetics. How can we make the most beautiful chair in the world? For example, as Stone did, as you probably know. But in the next 50 years, the focus changed and we started focusing on function. How can we design different kinds of chair with different kinds of functions, and how can we design a chair for outdoors and for comfy sitting or for whatever this is.
Interrogation.
Then, around the 75, the focus again changed and we started focusing on how can we fulfill the needs of the company the best we can. How can we sell at the lowest price the most of the stock? How can we create as many chairs as possible with the fewest materials and lowest cost? But around the year 2000, we again changed, and we started to think, how can we fulfill the user's needs? User is in the center of our focus. Every person has different buttocks, so how can we create different chairs for every single user needs? And this is probably something you know. We are testing for user needs, we are designing for user needs. But as we in Pábení and a lot of designers all around the world believe, it is not enough, and it is not true in the year 2020, because user-centric used to be advantage. If you have user-centric design, it's advantage, but it kind of became like old chestnut. It's a standard, everybody has it, everybody knows what is UX. And design thinking, as such, used to be an investment, like people were hiring designers to introduce them to design thinking. But nowadays, almost every company has some kind of design department, and it's starting to be some like a cost of doing business. Companies are willing to pay their inner employees for doing design. So probably design thinking is not sustainable in its very core, and I would like to tell you a little bit about why I think this. User, as a single person, also as a persona probably, is not equivalent to a community or society. If you think about it, a single user, like for a shoe, can't represent the whole society that will benefit or deal with the consequences of manufacturing shoes for example, runners. Design thinking also makes us create new stuff. In the very core of design thinking, in this pattern you probably know, it says innovate. Think about how can you make something new, something interesting, ideate, prototype, test, and deliver, and give it to people. But how about, think about all the things that are already in use. What can we do with them? What about systems that need to be changed? I believe designing is not so simple as just ideating, prototyping, and testing, and delivering. And also, systems are complex. It's behind every service or every product, there is a huge, complicated system that needs to be spotted and taken into the game. So, sustainability isn't only about ecology, as you probably know because you came to this event, so you probably know it. And I would like to say that sustainability is about long-term goals and systemic approach. And I would like to give you a few examples about how this can work. What does it actually mean? I will not run this video, but if you want to, please try to find out about Kate Raworth. She's a renegade economist. She wrote the book Donut Economy, and actually I love her, so please let's find more about her and her way how she explains what is circular economy. but because we can't have Kate Robert here, me, Jana Hřebecká, can tell you what is behind sustainable design. And it's about finding where profit, people, and planet meets. How you can do something good for a company's profit, for people's needs, as you know about these users, and also how you can take care about planet at the same time. It's not only about aiming for one of these 3 points, it's about trying to have it all. Have the products and services that are profitable, that are not harming any people, and also the people inside the companies are well taken care of, and also the impacts on the environment are not harmful, or they are regenerative. They create something better. How do we do sustainable service design in Pábení? As I promised, I will tell you 3 examples of sustainable design, so let's dive into this. The first one is Eurovac. Eurovac is a company from Prague, but they have 1,000 employees all around Europe. And a year ago, they told us, we have this problem. We are growing too fast. Probably you know it from your own companies. We are growing too fast. It was before coronavirus. And the culture in our company is changing so rapidly that we are not able to communicate and include everybody in this culture. And it's starting to be a real problem, because people don't know why we hire them or why we fire them. And it's hard to communicate when you are from Czech Republic with somebody from Turkey and meet at the same level of understanding what is good work in Eurovac. Change is the only constant. It's one of the stickers we made for them, because this is something that resonates throughout the company very much. But stickers or a culture book was not the real outcome of our work. The real outcome was a toolkit out of methods, tools, and quite easy plug-and-play tools for leaders to communicate what is really the vision, what is really the focus of the company, and what are the values. And we gave them well-tested and implemented methods, workshops they can run with their teams and meet at the level of the values and vision. But why do I think this was sustainable design? Because we made the client to be able to work with our design. We tested our solutions. We taught the managers how to use the design, and we trained one person specifically in Eurovac to be able to share the design throughout the company. We incorporated many people in the company, 200, into the process throughout the year. We call this co-design. Maybe you have a different word for this, but we worked very closely together, and we tested and tested and tested and iterated. And the main reason why I think this design is sustainable is because the company is changing, and it's changing towards sustainability. They want to make transportation, running trucks on the roads as sustainable as possible. They want to lower their carbon dioxide emissions and stuff like this. And they want to do it through platform business. And they want to do this for the environment and for the people who live in the countries where their trucks drive. But as well, they don't want to lose their own people in this process. And they want the whole company, the 1,000 people, to stand behind this vision and be able to follow them. And to be able to do this, they need something to help them, and this is our toolkit. So this is the first example of what do we think is sustainable design. The second example is the work we do with UNIPA. UNIPA is a union of midwives. Midwives are the women who help you deliver the baby throughout the labor. And it's very different customer than Eurovac. Eurovac are those guys who drive trucks. These are the women who deliver babies, and I love to switch between these kind of clients. What we do with UNIPA is a very hard, long project that focuses on how can we take care of medical professionals who help families who lost their child around the labor, right before or right after the labor. How these medical professionals can deal with their own emotions and how can they help the families the best way possible. This is a very dark theme for design, and this is very challenging as well. We developed a service. It's like advisory phone line for these professionals, but it's not the main reason why I'm telling you about this project, because as well as we are designing this service, we are also doing something called the learning organization in UNIPA. Because throughout the year, when we are designing these processes, we also teach the people inside UNIPA what we do while we are designing. What is human-centered design? What are the tools we are using? How can they facilitate their own design meetings? And the biggest success I've seen throughout this journey was the web page Rodím v klidu. You can translate it as I deliver my baby while chill or while in calm. They designed by themselves this web page in March when the coronavirus hit, and it was a hotline for all women before or after the labor to give them the information they needed. And if you remember what was in March, the actual factual information were quite precious. And they did it by themselves. We didn't help them at all. And throughout this process, we could see that they really understand what design is. They tested this line, they implemented it very lean, very smoothly. And unfortunately, this line will be probably on again very soon. So in the key ingredient for UNIPA in this learning organization is prototyping and testing. And they are learning throughout the year how to use these tools to really deliver better services. And this is not a golden standard in NGOs if you ever worked with them. So the third example is from Hnutí Duha, Rainbow Movement, but in English it sounds awful. It's a major ecological organization in Europe. I hope nobody from Hnutí Duha is watching right now. And what we did with them three years ago was this set of cards designed for people who have children. They think about environment and how to protect environment, but they are not at all active. They will not bond themselves to a tree so people are not able to cut it. They just observe the situation and think something for themselves. So they made these cards to activate this kind of people with small children. And on these cards are small, very easy to do activities you can do in damaged forest to help it regenerate. It's quite fun. You can buy it if you want to. But why I think it's sustainable? Throughout this box and selling this box of cards, they entered the whole new market for fundraising. before they designed this box, these people were somewhere very far away for them, and it was very hard to tell them, give us money, we want to protect the environment for you. But throughout this tool, they were able to do it. And they discovered a theme that resonates throughout the population, because the damaged forest is something everybody can see, and everybody is hit by this situation. And of course, it's sustainable because when you have fun with your kids while doing some climate action, you want to do it again because you want to be like a better person for your kids, as you probably know if you have some kids. So, these are the 3 examples I wanted to give you. These are some thoughts on a sustainable design. They are definitely not like everything people can tell you about sustainability. But if you want to learn more, if you want to dive more into this, I would like to invite you next Monday. We can have a breakfast together online, of course. And you can join me for Hovory o designu, talks about design on Eventbrite. If you want to, I can give you the link for this event. So we are Pábení, we are from Brno, we are from Prague, and if you want to talk more about sustainable design and you are not available next Monday, you can definitely call us and we can grab an online beer and chat more about this. So thank you very much. And I think it's time for another speaker. Is it right? No, it's time for questions. Okay. Do we have some questions? Do you have some questions? Do you want to ask me something about sustainable design?
Write it to the chat.
Yes, write it to the chat, please. I've seen that somebody liked during the couple folks. Yeah.
But in the meantime, maybe I have a question.
Sure.
Did you introduce the whole project for Eurowag? Sorry? Hi there, I have a question. Did you introduce the whole project for Eurowag as a sustainable, or did you somehow mask it during the process? Did they know all the project if it's sustainable, and was it a selling point, or it was just happened through the process? Thanks for answering.
Thank you, Peter. Yes, we didn't sell the project as sustainable, but throughout the process, we asked them, what is your vision, what is your strategy? And because they were talking about the platform solution, we asked them, is it sustainable? Are you doing this because you want to lower emissions, because you want to make the transport of goods more sustainable? And they said, we never thought about this, but actually, yes, probably. And like 6 months later, they incorporated this word sustainable into their own vision, so yay! And now they are trying to communicate this to their people, and some of them say, no, we sell oil, we can't say sustainable. But yeah, we somehow started this discussion on sustainability in Eurowag. Some more questions? No.
There might be some delay actually, so
yeah, definitely.
questions might pop up later.
Maybe if you have some questions, not right now, but maybe you will think about them, I will stay here until the end of the event. So if you want to ask me later, you definitely can. I will be here just behind the camera. So I think it's time for our next speaker. Maybe I will stand here so you're...
It's better. So yeah, it was an awesome presentation by Jana, and now we will have Petr here in the stage, and then I hope that you are enjoying as much as we are. Like here the environment is really, really good. So yeah, Peter, you can come, please.
So let's transfer this. Okay. maybe over here. So, all right, I'm sorry, I will have notes because after years in design, my memory is like a goldfish, so I cannot do it anymore. All right, so, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Peter. I'm a UX designer at Kentico, and for the last couple of years, I've been also a sustainable design enthusiast. If you do a Google search on sustainable design, some fancy expressions will pop up, such as green design, or eco design, or circular design, or upcycling, or SDGs, or sustainable development goals, and stuff like that. However, most of these are focused on physical design only. So, well, for most of my career, I've been working as in digital mediums, and well, there's not much to learn and find out there. So, I did some research throughout the years, and in this talk, I will walk you through what I found, what I learned, what I came up with during the time. So, first of all, why are we talking about the sustainability of digital products? Many of us still remember the time like 10 or 15 years ago. I like to call this thing like the first wave of digital transformation, when all digital alternatives of previously analog services came to life and replaced them pretty swiftly. So maybe you remember like analog pictures and glossy photo albums, or rotary phones, or paper mail, or ordering something via like a paper slip you cut out from a newspaper or something and send it to someone, and tons of like paper mail marketing. And yeah, well, that all changed a bit. And the changes might seem a little bit more economical, for sure, a lot more effective, for sure. Sometimes they even seemed like greener or ecological alternatives. But, well, of course, like we don't use paper, we don't cut more trees, but the new solutions were by no means clean either. So, I believe many of us recognize this picture, or the variants of this picture, like all the devices that smartphones or mobile devices replaced. And I believe that a lot of us who work in a digital sphere also know that this is not the full story. This is more like the full story. All the mobile devices and stuff needs a lot of infrastructure and huge servers, data centers, etc., 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 that operate and service all those fancy stuff we do. So the true cost is much bigger than just what we perceive. For example, if you might ask, like, how big if the IT sector as a whole were a country, it would be the first largest consumer of electricity in the world. And this graph I'm showing you is from 2012, so probably it's much bigger by now, because 2012 was like Ice Age. And that's it. Running all that infrastructure comes with a cost, and the electricity, surprise, surprise, despite what Microsoft or Apple or Google tries to persuade us, mostly comes from, surprise, surprise, fossil fuels. So by this way, every kilowatt hour spent to transfer data has some kind of carbon footprint, ergo every kilobyte has some kind of carbon footprint. From the user's or consumer's point of view, the technology is a black box. Most of them don't realize these hidden costs, and even if they did, they would have very little power to do so. Well, what are they going to do? Like, not use the stuff they need to do for their job, or not use the services? But we designers know the black box. We create the black box, we design the black box the way it is, and we should be aware of the damage the black box can cause and causes. I mentioned that digital is effective, and digital scales extremely well. Most of you probably know this one. I'm not sure if you can see the lovely GIF there. Oh yeah, we have it here. So, we probably know this one, and for the time, right now, it has like 6.9 billion views. And it scales extremely well. All the technology that supported this was designed to scale so 6.9 billion people could enjoy Despacito. However, it created the combined carbon footprint of this. It's approximately 370,000 tons of carbon emissions. This is just data from, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, so it would be more. And I'm not doing this to hate on Despacito or YouTube and stuff like this. It's cool, perfect, I like it. People have fun. But I'm telling this to illustrate the power of scaling. If you're a designer and had the ability to lower the carbon footprint of all this stuff by 1% or 0.1% or 0.01%, it still would be a huge deal. And that's the stuff you can do as a digital designer, if you do it smart. So let's take a look at a couple of tools I found and I prepared for you. I'm going to divide this into 3 sections or tiers. Each one will be different, and each one will represent a different kind of digital design profession or field. So the first will be tools for UI or UX designers. In the second part, it will move to a little bit more abstract, but still very much hands-on stuff for UX or product or service designers working on digital products. And I will end this talk with like tools or thoughts for anyone with a designer in their title, stuff that all designers should think about and take into consideration in now or in days to come. So let's get into the basics. As I mentioned earlier, we can just go to this, we can just refer to this kind of equation, like time running or data transferred directly translates to energy and directly translates to carbon emissions or other emissions. So it may seem that there are 3 main like variables we can influence as digital designers, like time and energy spent and actions that impact those 2. Actually, there's this thing that you as a designer cannot do much about energy because energy is usually like in the hands of developers. So that the real gold mine lies in those 2. So let's take a look what you can do as a UX or UI designer. I would fold this into 2 small buckets, and very simple buckets. First one is do good UX, and the second one is think stuff through. And for the do good UX part is like, okay, like the real basics. Sadly, it's 2020, and sadly, there's still a lot of products that do like kind of okay UX. They follow some basic, I don't know, basic heuristics and guidelines and best practices and so on. But it's still not really good, and they just sprinkle some UX on top like a glitter. The real part comes when you want to actually solve the needs of your users really, really, really well. So that comes with understand your users, know their jobs to be done, and make solutions that solve these things effectively. Another super basic thing you probably know as a UX practitioner or UI practitioner is time on task. Okay, this is the metric that can help you a lot. It tells you how much time a user spent doing some task that is in his workflow or something. But this is really key thing to know. You can mask it behind other metrics like number of clicks, number of interactions, or whatever needed to finish this. But you really want to know, like, okay, what's your average? What is the minimum? What is the maximum? While you test this stuff, and why is it minimum and maximum? Is there anything that hinders the user from finishing the task? And the last thing from do good UX is make stuff accessible and understandable. Again, I'm very unhappy that it needs to be repeated, but accessibility should be at the core. Not just by it's okay to include other kinds of personas than the general ones, but also by its like transitive wellness. If you make stuff accessible, is much more effective, and sometimes it's even more simpler, so it consumes less. Great, so that brings me to another bucket. Think stuff through. First point is think about performance. Okay, performance might be something you might hear your developers arguing about, but it's something that you really want for your user as well. You really want your user to not be stuck in something, not to be waiting for something. So, and it also cuts the time. This will be repeated a lot. So, how do you do that? You may be familiar with this kind of pyramid. What good UX might mean. At base, it should be functional and reliable and usable, and all the nice like stuff and fluff on top and visual coolness should be really on top, like in this pleasurable part. So if you don't do the basics, don't bother with fancy animations, fancy interactions, stuff like that, it will only blob up your page. Speak about blobbing, page rate and load time. So, I might return. So regarding page rate, again, simple logic. If you reload the page tens of thousands of times, every kilobyte would count. So all the changes compound. If the page is smaller or loads faster, it consumes less resources, etc., 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 etc. There are even tools that will help you to navigate through this. For example, there's this website Carbon that tells you like the exact or more or less exact carbon dioxide emission that's caused by a single load of your page. So, and it also gives you a very, very good tips on what can you do better, how can you minimize the page, what are the good tricks. Another part. All right. So what can you do as a field UXer or field UI and pixel pusher kind of position? You can also think about, this is a really good example of what can you do and what kind of mindset you need to have for this. Be very conscious about your asset use. By asset use, I mean a lot of images, icons, all of media, all of stuff you can include. I really like to illustrate this on fonts or icons you can use on your website. What will you do? What can you do? Are you going to use PNGs? PNGs are huge. Don't use PNGs, use SVGs, they are much smaller. But however, if you need to manage huge sets of icons, you will need to maintain them properly. So there's a really better solution, and that's that are icon fonts or CSS sprites that preload at the first time, and then they are not used again and again and again. So that was it. And use this mindset for anything. Use this mindset for any kind of linked stuff, any kind of whatever is not code, I would say. Number 4, be conscious about the in-the-middle infrastructure. I work in kind of a marketing industry, and these are all the tools and technology and frameworks that are used by marketers. So be very conscious about what you plug into your system. Be very conscious if you really need that complicated CMS for your super simple site, and be very conscious about all the data you track and store, and just store it just in case if we take a look at it sometime in the future and if we might need it. Chances are that those data are part of the 93% that human eyes will never see and will never review. Do you really need that fancy, I don't know, JavaScript framework for the simple animation you can do by CSS or something like that? Or screen recorder or whatever. And yeah, try to be like very frugal about this stuff. Number 5, no autoplay. There's this nice anecdote about Netflix that just by not making autoplay immediate, Netflix save a couple of petabytes of data traffic a day. So I tend to believe this rumor, given the popularity of Netflix and their traffic. And there are few occasions where like autoplay might be useful, but it's very, very rare occasion. I don't think it's very polite either, like something starts to screaming at you from the background. And just until it proves super big value, please don't do this. And of course, it adds a lot of traffic. And the same principle goes for any kind of attachments, mail attachments, document attachments, and stuff like that. Make any kind of this on demand, just include a link, so if the user really needs it, he will download it, he will take care of it. Not automatic stuff. And by larger files, I mean anything larger than a couple of kilobytes. So, green hosting, that's a really nice thing. So why count grams of emissions when you can avoid them completely, right? Yeah, there are many options and hosting providers that can guarantee that their data is from renewable resources, and that might be a really good option in your tool set. Especially if you do like smaller projects, agency-style projects, and stuff like that. It might be harder to like convince a big corporate to switch to green hosting. But nevertheless, AWS or MS Azure or another frameworks like this offer greener alternatives as well. So, however, do not conform to the feeling that this is a silver bullet. There's a lot more stuff you can do other than just omitting like dirty power. Last one from the bucket might be a little bit hardcore one. Like you can go for pixel level consumption. This might seem like hardcore, like every pixel uses some energy, but not all pixels or colors or displays are equal. And especially if you're designing for mobile devices, and especially if the trend of using OLED displays, if the trend will continue, these displays have really nice feature that, for example, in some parts of color spectrum, they consume less power. And there's a trendy wave you can ride right now, and that's dark mode. And it's not something that's just easy on your eyes when you're browsing socials in the evening in your bed, but it actually uses less power. So if you have the option, try to include that. So that was the basic stuff. Let's move on to the part if you have more responsibility or you can influence more. And if you're in position of UX designer that can influence more, or in a position of product designer, service designer, stuff like that. These directions might be a bit more abstract, but they'll be good. First one, smart defaults. This is a like free continuation of previous buckets with understanding your user. If you work on a larger and longer projects, you probably know the behavior of your user much better, and you can predict some stuff. So be predictive of this stuff. Be predictive of what your user need in the next step of the process. Try to offer it to him. Try to include some smart stuff, or design a solution that can predict it for you regarding of his previous choices. Offer shortcuts, offer stuff for public users. It helps a lot. Again, by better usability, it's more effective, you spend less, etc., etc., etc. You get the gist now. Do a proper content design and do it first. A lot of us work with content, use content, and we should be quite conscious about this. And we all probably know the situation that we designed something and it came back from a copywriter or like technical writer with, okay, we cannot fit it in there. We cannot do this. We cannot do any kind of this you design. So first, it's wasteful. And second, if you know what your user needs and wants, you can offer him the right content the first time. Do it. If you want a little primer or don't come as frequently, I will give some tips. I hope many of UXers still read, so try this one, Content Strategy for the Web by Kay Halverson. It's amazing, it's a good primer. Number 3. I think this is probably the most important tip I will mention here today. Use your unique position. Almost anyone can influence the simple and general and generic stuff, like how much power do you use, how much stuff you recycle, or what kind of transport do you use. However, you as a designer are an expert on the stuff you design and on the stuff you help to create. You have influence on some niche of a market or industry, and you can change stuff. So do that. Be the expert and do the small steps or improvements that can translate to bigger and bigger impacts. So just to give you an example, I work in designing content management systems, and I know how messy they can be and how much unnecessary complexity they can add. So, but it's me who is in the best position to change that. So I can design changes that allow people to reuse most of their stuff, so it doesn't create like clutter and useless content and useless systems. Know the systems, know the complex systems you're creating. That would be my suggestions, and change stuff. Maybe openly and transparently, or maybe do it guerrilla style and sell your sustainable solutions with improved performance or decreased costs and tell nobody about it, but do it. It's still nice. And this is the biggest impact you can have as a designer and as a person. And since I started with the book recommendations, if you want to know where are you in the system and what can you do about your system and what are your leverage points, go for Danella Meadows. It's amazing, you will learn a lot about thermostats and stuff, but that's another thing. And if you haven't already read it, read Mike Montero's buzzworded Ruined by Design to know what your responsibilities truly are. Talking about responsibility, take a formal one. Product designers, sometimes service designers, or generally product-oriented designers love to measure stuff and their progress and any kind of metrics like this. So why not add like 1 or 2 more? Create some sustainability or eco-connected KPI or key result or whatever framework you use. And if you're not sure where to start, first identify the impacts your product or service or feature might have. Great examples are some kind of futuring techniques or games. And really nice exercise is like Black Mirror exercise. Actually, this is an exercise for group, preferably a group of designers, where you explore the worst possible scenarios that could be done with your product or service or feature, and what kind of impact they might have or on psychological or social or environmental level. Yeah, and it's named precisely after Black Mirror. If you want to be more precise and go for more rigorous route, I'm sure Jana will know this one, and go for LCAs or life cycle assessments. LCAs comes from the world of physical design and circular economy. They're quite helpful to assess like different kind of impacts, either direct or transitive. It's quite complex, and to be honest, it's much more easier to do an LCA on a car or on a mobile phone or something like that than on a digital service. And yeah, and all the services that come into it. If you would like to know more, I recommend this one. It's by Tim Frick. It's quite dated by now. Well, it came out in 2013 or 14 or something like that. Seems like ages now, but yeah, his ideas about LCAs for digital products are really valid up till now. They're really good. LCAs can be quite complex. They can gain a lot of stuff around it, but it's like this kind of a sign or badge that, okay, we really mean it with this stuff. We really want to know our impacts. And if you know your impacts and you discover stuff about your product, if you spend the time evaluating and assessing it, why not use it in your product actually? So go for like eco-friendly options and defaults. You might find a lot of stuff that, during the evaluation, you might find a lot of stuff that hurts the environment or has bad impact, but you also find a lot of opportunities. You can do better and you can transfer. And a lot of leverage points. Okay, if I do this small thing here, it can have this big impact over there. So try to include them, or try to make them default options for your user. I really like this one that Rohlík, the grocery delivery service from Czech Republic, implemented some time ago. And this is actually part of the flow where you choose the time of your delivery, what is your preferred time. And they show you a couple of options where they show you like, okay, we'll be traveling around your neighborhood at that time. So you can just chip in to that It will save them resources, it will save you resources, it will lower the impact as well. The same goes for like transportation industry and stuff. Try to offer your user not just the cheapest one or the, I don't know, the preferred option from your point, but try to include eco-diverse defaults. Okay, like this is the connection with least ecological impact. And I don't know, maybe the last one from this part. Be wary of offsets. Jana already mentioned greenwashing. We all love to hate on it. It's perfect. Like, okay, you can show your user or customer the ecological impact of their purchase, but okay, we might see something like this, compensate for the trip. I'm not going to hate on it completely. Okay, it's a nice thing. It's a nice thing to have in your toolbox, but don't rely on offsets or having an event when you plant dozens of trees as like a conscience cleanser every year or two. It's a nice thing, it's a nice social thing, but don't do it in this way. Or there's another exception to this rule. Do it if it's your core business model, as for Ecosia. Ecosia is a search engine that redirects like most of its revenue to reforestation in tropical countries and creating new jobs there. So that is a really, really, really good example for, I think another one from the social words is Tom's, the shoe company. If you buy one pair, they will send another pair to someone in need. Try this. It's not just regarding your conscience, it's good for the planet. So, there were the tips for that, for product-oriented designers. And now for the last part, a bit of design food for thought. As I was diving deeper and deeper into the subject, I started to observe the things I noticed were were basically symptomatic of each other. The big page weight was a symptom of bad content design and stuff. And of course, this led me to think like, okay, isn't there some underlying big problem that can address this all? And I came up with a multiple. So the first one, I'm sorry, I lost my notes. It's going, yeah, I'm there. So the first one, Jana already mentioned in a bit. Yeah, I might be there. Yay! Perfect. So, new kind of stakeholders. We're used to the fact that in our design practice we have to conform to multiple kind of stakeholders. For example, you have to confront your client. You have to take into account some technical stuff, and of course, your stakeholder should be one of your stakeholders should be your user, although it's a little bit more abstract sometimes. And I'm sorry, I'm completely lost a bit. Yeah, perfect. So, however, the impact we have is not just on the individuals, it's not just on the users, on the stakeholders of the company, and stuff like that. The impact we have is bigger. The impact we have is on maybe just our companies, or we impact some communities connected to it, or completely disconnected to it. Sometimes we impact the society, sometimes the stuff we work on can impact bigger or small part of the economy or the market. And of course, it has an impact of the environment we live in and the ecosystems we're part of. So, to not take this into account as kind of short-sighted and immature, I think. We should start to think about including different kinds of stakeholders and different entities as stakeholders as well, and include them in our processes. And this is not a new concept either. The old and kind of like original design disciplines, like such as architecture or urban planning, did this years and years and years ago. Good designer doesn't design just for the developer. Good designer designs for the community that will use his design and live in his design. And good designer will also include the other communities that are surrounding this design of his. And I think there's a lot to learn from them. We shouldn't just design for the disruption of the market, but we should also design to be good stewards of the systems we live in. Yeah. Another beautiful point, sustainability is not enough. In the last few years, the term sustainability successfully achieved the status of a buzzword. And as most buzzwords, many use it without fully understanding what does it mean or being able to tell it. And the most common understanding of it is a way of living and continuing our current social and consumer habits without doing much of a damage to the ecosystem and the planet. Yeah, that sounds cool, right? Okay, we just stop exploiting the resources and stop polluting the environment and use less stuff. And of course, that will be a huge undertaking, and that will require a huge society and mental shift and everything. But theoretically, it can be done, right? Yeah, well, I ask, will that be enough? I argue that it won't be enough. The current understanding of sustainability doesn't exactly tell us what are we trying to sustain. And even if that is a good idea to sustain that thing, and it doesn't address the damage that has been already done. Or the damage to the ecosystem, the communities, the society. So therefore, I would rather call for a restorative approach or regenerative approaches. The current pandemic situations showed us this thing, okay, we can return to the old normal, but yeah, we can do better, right? We can create a new normal in a way, and we should do something about it. And what does it mean for design? I would suggest, rather than to look for inspiration on how to minimize or mitigate the harm we're doing, try to look for ways and inspiration. How can we leave the system in a better shape than we found it? Either ecologically, socially, or whatever. And yeah, that comes to thinking restoratively. I'm sure there are many metaphors for this thing. And if you have another ones, I would be glad to receive them. I collect them. And I personally really like the metaphor of handprints. Many of you are familiar with the term footprint. They usually are defined as some traces or impacts of the processes that sustain us, that enable our presence. There are some kind of tags that is included in the services or experiences we receive and we experience. Whether we like that tags or not, it's still there. And these footprints can be whatever you want them. It can be carbon footprint, social footprint, environmental footprint, if you look at the bigger picture. Sometimes, sadly, even forced labor or child labor footprints. So what if I told you that there's a counterpart to it? Handprints are the things that the other impact that you make beside footprint. So it means that you need to make it knowingly. and willingly. So very simple example of this, of environmental handprint, is a tree planted. It does not reduce the footprint you wrecked over the time. By burning fossil fuels or using wood furniture or living on deforested land. But it mitigates and restores and regenerates a part of the ecosystem. If we were talking about carbon handprint, we would be talking about the amount of CO2 that can be captured from the atmosphere. If we're talking about the forced labor handprint, we would be talking about how many less people were forced to create something or do something. And basically the thing is, you would like to strive for having your handprints bigger than your footprints, going towards the restorative part. Well, how can you apply that to design, and especially digital design? Unfortunately, digital design cannot do much about the eco handprints or footprints, but it's super powerful in indirect action. Designers can influence and create a lot of new opportunities and approaches in a world of, I don't know, social interaction or connection, creating new business models and many more, this kind of soft tech area. Which brings me to another beautiful point. Oh gosh, that sounded like Trump. It's very beautiful, it's fabulous. Enable the transformation. Digital design is oftentimes super intangible, and its products can be super intangible, but at the same time, it often connects and disrupts and transforms a lot of other tangible areas, as Jana mentioned about transportation and stuff. You can, when we were discussing this with some guys who are deep into circular stuff, we came to a conclusion that the biggest impact of digital is enabling the change in other industries. Mobility, production, information, exchange of any kind of assets, energy industries, social networks and causes. All of these are undergoing and will undergo another transformations, whether digital or sustainable or circular or anything that comes up after these kind of dark years. There will be certainly some kind of digital aspect to these transformations. So don't throw out all the benefits of flexibility and scalability and stuff, because they can pollute, but they can also help in a big time. So be the guy that helps these companies or fields and industries to make the change smart, make the change responsible and sustainable and considerate, and so on. Yeah. Jana already mentioned this. Step outside of human-centered design. Human-centered design has been golden grail of digital design for a couple of decades now. And that makes sense given the beginnings of like human-computer interaction and stuff. And it also impacted a lot of like physical disciplines. But even though the framework was certainly like well-meant and was meant to help people at that time, it's not sufficient to address the challenges that design and digital design faces right now, and will face in upcoming decades. Putting human user at the center of our focus and like disregarding the wider impacts and social and economical implications is similar to proclaiming the Earth as the center of the universe. It's like, okay, there's nothing there, we're the center. And I think that designers should explore other frameworks or modes of operation. And in the upcoming years, these new frameworks are, some designers already started to go in this direction, and they take more participative approach. Like, okay, not designing for someone, but designing with someone, including the people into the process, and taking into account completely different entities, as I mentioned, communities as stakeholders, and different actors of different systems. Again, for the recommendations, if there anyone interested in zooming out, there was this beautiful article, something called about design for bees. And it was like, why is human-centered design is going to die because of this? And I will link that into the presentation. You can definitely find it there. Or you can go for a wonderful elaborative book by Benjamin Bratton, The Stack, that explores different kind of points of view on a design or on interactions from the user till through the city, through the cloud level of operation till the whole planetary kind of operation and planetary design. It's a really nice thing to zoom out in a while. Yeah. All right, so we're nearing the end, and this is the last point. We're in a completely different business than we think we are. The discussion about sustainability and environmental responsibility is currently largely framed by emissions and global climate change and stuff, and the reduction of these things. But if you've been following this for a while, you know that this is just a tiny part of the solution. So, well, given the current progression of climate change and greenhouse gases emission projections, this suggests that we will have very, very, very slim chance of doing it right and not reversing it, but slowing it down. And given the probable upcoming political changes, it will get even worse. But to make that kind of commitment, like, okay, we're going to change this and we're going to improve this on a planetary level is going to be a huge and super complicated thing. And it will take decades to do so, to be honest. Another thing that you will notice when you dive deep is that technology is not our limitation. We can do technologically a lot. We can fix a lot by technology, but it's not the bottleneck. The bottleneck is, our limitations are political culture, social norms and expectations and values we have right now. And to change those, it definitely won't take years and maybe not even decades. So we're in super long run for this. I really like the definition of a designer as a grumpy optimist, so I'm optimist we can do that. But we need to keep people and societies and companies on board to do this. And you might see where I'm heading with this. We're not in the business of removing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. We're in the business of social and economical change. And as designers of any kind, not just interaction, UX, product, service, whatever, we tend to be quite good at tech, but we're much better at fusing it with the human aspect. And that's exactly what will be needed. We should help and guide the transformation and its focus on individuals and communities and ecosystems. It won't be a fast process. It will take decades, and we should take that into consideration. Maybe prepare a better starting position for future designers. Just take a look at the pioneers of human-computer interactions and UX and stuff and what they did and how the field kind of flourishes now. So try to do that for sustainable design in the future. Yeah, that's it. That was a little bit heavy. And I would like to end this on a little bit lighter note. you might be asking, what can you do? What can I do then? And you might have a feeling that if you want to do it something, it's going to be something super complex or big or huge, like scaling a mountain. Or you're just not sure if you want to do anything at all. What I would suggest is just do what you do already. Chances are that if you're watching this talk and listening to this, that you're somehow concerned about the impacts of what you do. Or you're interested in the sustainability and environment. And if any of this interests you, just give it a moment or two to think about. Don't feel pressured. We're in this for a long run, so don't feel the need to do something right now. Continue being that guy with the interest in climate in your social circles and your company and stuff. And maybe if you feel so inclined, apply some of the tips I mentioned. And that's it. Thank you for your attention. If you'd like to learn more and gain some resources, you can find it at designsustainably.eu. Sorry for the domain, it was cheap. And you can find all the book references, tips, articles, most of the content I mentioned in the presentation over there. If you'd like, contact me and talk about any kind of stuff, do it via LinkedIn or Twitter. And yeah, that's it from my side. Enjoy the rest of your talk. I'm ready for questions if there are any. Other than that, be ready for a fabulous talk by Jezevec next.
And I will jump in. Nice presentation. We have actually two questions.
Yeah.
One was the first from our chat from Mako Ueda. And she asked, Petr, can you share how to incorporate sustainable digital consumption in your everyday life?
Yeah. Like really good everyday tips are, these won't be popular. Stay away from streaming. it's like a bomb. And most of the principles I mentioned there, for example, do stuff on demand. Don't do automatic stuff. Don't do automatic attachments and so on and so on. If you can, download every kind of stuff, not to use all the power for the servers somewhere else. Don't stream it. Just download it, for example, on Spotify. You can find really good tips on the webpage if you click to the, if you go to the communities. There's a really nice community in Germany that covered a lot of these things as well.
Okay, and we have the second one by Honza Poborgil, that he asks, how to evaluate that our design decisions improved it? For example, we changed our design to darker, but our users use cheap LCDs instead of the OLED displays. So for readability, they increase brightness. Or we changed supplier because they use child labor, but as a result, we paid to Chinese robots than for a lunch for an Indonesian child. So yeah, this is a good question.
Yeah, regarding the first part, I'm not sure if I can address the second part with the suppliers and child labor right now. But regarding the first part, I would suggest to do these decisions based on the previous research, to know what your users actually use and tailor it for them. Or you can tailor it directly for people with those devices so they can benefit and they can do it. So think proactively in that. Regarding the metrics, it's tough like with all the metrics. Okay, you will make an experiment, you will change a couple of variables, and which one changed it? So do a good experiment design first if you are really interested in that.
Great, great. Thank you.
Great.
And
that's it.
So you can still ask in our chat. And now we will just swallow a vowel. So instead of Petr, we'll have Petr. So yeah, Petr, you can come and join us.
Hi guys, my name is Jezevec, or Peter, as was already mentioned. I'm from a free company called Cord of Moravia, and we do the design. But we are not the right UX designers,
We more focus on how to really deliver the change through the companies. And probably one of the biggest issues is like, hey, I as a UX designer or sustainable designer or more handprint than footprint designer have an awesome idea and great framework, cool process, something which will change the world for the better. You truly believe in it and nobody else gives a shit. And it's quite usual situation, just face the truth that you have an idea and they don't have a clue. And there's a really, really long road from your idea to delivery by others. So mostly you fighting with the windmills, you try to convince the others, and you trying so long before you succeed, or mostly before you fail and you leave the company and you think it doesn't make sense and rather start typing down on social networks how everything sucks. So what to do with it is kinda my topic. I would like to share with you in next, let's say, 15 minutes. It will be just basics, but I think it's really important. One other thing, not sure if it's working, never mind. Yep. The thing you're really doing is the convincing the others. This is your goal. I'm really sorry. You say your goal is something like to change the world. Yes, for sure. But your true goal is to convince the other to believe in your idea. That's it. And what's the saddest part of the story is you all doing it because of yourself. You're doing it for your own mind, for your own brain, for your desperate need to be heard. So it's really good to start with this point, that you want to be heard, then you want somehow convince the other, and then deliver the original idea. And it sounds harsh, I know, but I really believe in something called positive selfishness. And it's really important to love yourself on the first grade, then you can love the others. So basically, you only expressing your love to yourself, to the others, and then they love you back. It's a theory, but I will stick to that as a basics. And one other thing is that it's fully okay if you have a passion, if you believe in an idea, but it definitely is not enough. What will you need is a set of manipulative techniques, because manipulation isn't a bad word, you know. Manipulation is basically you trying to convince the other people about something, and you do it unconsciously the whole day. Don't worry about it. You manipulate with the others, you get up from the bed, and you get clean yourself. Then you choose which clothes you will take on yourself. Maybe you do some trade with makeup, or you trying to trim your hair and maybe to get out, you know, things from your nose and stuff like that, just to look better for the others. And it's fully okay, you need a social approval to be a cool guy, but it's a manipulation. And then you said something and you mean it like a normal thing, like, hey, I'll go to make a coffee. And now you're manipulating the others as well, because you're trying to say to the others, hey, I will do the coffee, and maybe you crave for one as well, or I can be the good guy and offer you one. It doesn't matter. Basically, everything you do in your life is manipulating the others for your good. And it's okay just to be aware that it's about this, nothing else. And if you take this idea as something at least to think about, we can move further. What you really need to overcome is a firmware of the other people, their basic urge, their basic needs, how they are built by the nature to survive your thoughts. Because your body is programmed to be really resilient against all other stupid ideas. Even resilient to your own awesome ideas. So you have to fight with the firmware of the other people to be heard, to deliver what you are really trying to say. To be honest, I'm not sure, even if I'm saying something to you, that you will understand me exactly the same way I meant it. I know that. It's something like I take to the risk, and I believe in the best, but it's the most I can do right now, especially if I can't see you. maybe you are not there, but I believe you are there, so it's okay, I can live with that. But let's pretend that you are there and you're listening to me, awesome. But it still doesn't mean I convinced you, especially if it's something more than just win a few minutes of your time. So, what will you, oh, okay, it's the wrong slide, never mind, let's back. What we really need is to overcome that at the first you need to buy the others at least to hear your idea. Find some proper space in a good time, in a good mood, to at least find a space when the others will really hear you. Trust me, it's not a typical company meeting. On a typical company meeting, there no one comes to hear you. There usually most of the people come because they have to. And they really focus on something totally else than you. Even if your idea is awesome, you know, they have their own emails. The next thing is you need to find the best possible way, if you want a time, which can be difficult as it is, to explain them what you are trying to do. And you can't be too passionate, because, you know, no one loves this American style, especially here in post-Bolshevik countries. On the other hand, you can't be too shy and too, you know, not be sure about the idea, because no one loves losers. So balance somewhere between there, and it can differ from culture to culture. Then if you are successful, you still didn't even halfway there, but the next point is you hit the block of the others, because for their time and for their energy is fighting too many other ideas, and their authors think that their idea is awesome as well. And of course they think it's better than your idea, which probably can be. And the last thing is, even if you get your idea to the other's head, now you need to activate them to do something, which is in fact the most difficult part, because we are lazy as a fuck. And you know, the base work of each designer is to make the lazy person more lazy, because in that case this person is willing to pay for it. So you know the drill, at least partly, but as you see, it's quite difficult. Now it can be a good time to tell you, like, hey, I will explain you a few techniques how to do it. Yeah, maybe it's a good time, but I think it isn't. It was my original idea about what will I tell to you, but then I realized, oh, we will need few years, so what can I squeeze into 15 minutes? And then I realized that maybe instead introducing you the frameworks, is just tell you some really hard truths you don't want to listen, and which you basically don't hear on presentation like this, because usually during this presentation the speaker on the stage, because usually he paid for that, is trying to convince you to buy his product. So yeah, you can buy my product, but I will try to convince you that you need to do a few steps which are all painful and you won't like them, but when you process it somewhere, you know, walking in a fog in the woods, you will thank me, trust me. And to be honest, everything I'm saying is just my thought, and it definitely doesn't mean to be 100% sure truth, because, you know, what's the truth? And still I'm learning a lot, and even if I think I'm now the most clever monkey in the forest, it's not exactly true. I believe it for my whole life, and the older I am, the more I think it's not the perfect truth. But let's pretend I'm now the more clever monkey than you. That's the reason why you're listening to me and not vice versa. And let's get to the key points, I think, which are really, really important. The third thing is a time and patience. It's a thing you never get, because every change has to be done fast. We are in crisis, and if we don't do it right now, we will lose all opportunity. It's a good selling technique. It's called window of opportunity, but it's a total bullshit if you're talking about change design. Because if you don't have a time and patience, you will do a lot of mistakes, you will do lots of fault premises, and probably in a part of the process, your sponsor will come and cut you off. Because if you don't buy a time and patience in the beginning, and it can be really, really difficult if you are a contractor, if you are hired to do the change, and trust me, I know what I'm talking about, and you don't have a time and you don't have a patience, so your first step in the whole process is to win enough frame for the time and for the patience. If you don't fight for that, it will be always bad compromise. And trust me, it will be always bad compromise, even if the only reason is to make more money. If the reason is sustainability or culture change or something more with more longevity, you are fucked up just at the beginning. So if you are unable to win a time and a patience by sponsors, you can't win anything else with the users or community or with the planet. Sorry. The other thing is, it will never go only your way. You have to will to compromise. I mean it. It's always trade-off. There will be other influencers which will try to want the same. And you will need allies. You will need strong players. You will need shadow players on your side. You will need probably the guys you don't know now, but he's a really big influencer in the whole surrounding, in social era you working in. And trust me, if you don't have a will to compromise and you really believe in your idea, then think again. If you want to change the world, you need to make a compromise. Because if you believe that everyone will do what you say, oh, okay, you can make a two-pair like that stupid guy from US, but it won't work, trust me. There will be about half of nation which will really hate you, and the rest of planet which will think something bad about you. Okay, you can stick your head into your ass to don't see it, but it won't help the change as well. The other thing is diplomacy, and sometimes is a gunboat diplomacy. Trust me, all frameworks of design is basically useless bullshit if they don't teach you how to do diplomacy. Because there's so many influencers in the field that if you don't talk with them and you pretend you are the only one who cares, it's totally not true. They are fighting for your time, they are fighting for a budget, they are fighting for the same people, they are fighting for the same attention, and you have to do the diplomacy with them. Not only insiders, but even the other influencers all around. The longer you ignore them, the faster you will be out of the game. Because if two of them do diplomacy together, they will outrun you, just like that. And trust me, the more complex system is, the harder diplomacy is. But if you don't want to do diplomacy, and if you just want to do design because you are a designer, not a fucking lobbyist, then you failed right in this point. Sorry. Or try to find someone who will do it for you. The other thing is, okay, this is at least some bit of knowledge I want to share with you, is the knowledge of neuroscience. Basically, if you don't know how the man's mind is working, and if you don't really, let's say, suck like a sponge, you don't have a chance to survive. Trust me, most of algorithm is now more clever than you, because they believe in the data and they believe in neuroscience. And it's not about, you know, one neuroscience. It's about a lot of data from different fields of human and society specialty, and it's impossible to know it in one person. So you can get it somehow from the scratch. Definitely don't buy any paperback books. And still, it won't be enough. You need to know how you will react in this process, how they will react, and which bias are in your head and which bias are in their head. And if you have total no clue about what I'm talking about, it's fully okay. Start over from the beginning, but trust me, everything else is just useless if you don't know how you can rely on yourself and how you can rely on the others. Sorry. And the last thing is basically, it's all about the delivery. If you don't know how to deliver the idea, and if you were listening the whole time, the Jane she tried to pretend she's a designer. She's a good designer, but trust me, she's much better in explaining the people how to explain what they are trying to say. She can even train you, and trust me, she did many years with me, and I'm really happy about that. And it's about how you deliver the idea. And to be honest, if someone say like, hey, let's train presentation skill, it's mostly like, oh, I don't need that, I will somehow explain that. Trust me, it's all about delivery. If you have an awesome idea, if you did all prerequisite steps, you really know how to react, but you don't know how to say it the way they want to hear it, you failed. Really sorry. Someone else who has total shitty product or total shitty idea, but has ability to sell it, is easily able to win like 35% of the voters in the Czech Republic, for example. Even if this guy even don't know the language and still believe he's not a Slovak. But he know how to deliver the fucking idea, and it's a total bullshit, but the other guys in the politics just ignore it, so they lose. It's simple like that. The last thing, you can't do it alone. Even we always talk about the teams, and in most cases it's just like, okay, the other guy is working on the same workspace as me, but I'm the important and they are just the stuff, you know, I'm the main character in my TV show and the other just supporting characters, and they somehow share with me the same space. Oh, not now because of COVID, but you know, in a normal situation. And it's definitely not true. It's impossible to do at least the good design, I'm not talking about perfect change design, alone. It's totally impossible. Because the knowledge and the expertise you need, every single part of process, I tell you, needs a team of experts who know how to work with that, how to deliver that. And it's really naive to believe that, okay, I will somehow handle it by myself. Sorry, you can deliver only one part, and in other parts, you need not only to rely on the others, but be able to cooperate with them in total synchronicity. And there will be one really sad thing, but it's a science. Sorry, bitches. And that's it. If you're really looking for a really good working team, you will need probably 5 to 7 years working together on everyday basis before you can tell yourself, now we are really good working team. Before that, you are just synchronizing and you're losing so much energy just to understand each other, just to know each other, just to find the basics. So the really efficient team will be to 5 to 7 years. And especially if you are from Gen Y, Z, or Alpha, or whatever, you know, you the guys tapping full time on your cell phone, and something like, hey, 2 years of cooperating with someone and then I will move to another project, yeah, good, do it, but trust me, you won't build a team which trusts you and which you can trust in return, because it takes time, it takes social bonds, it takes hard work together, it takes success and failures together, and as I said, 5 to 7 years if you are really good. So if you're really thinking about design, thinking the first about the group you really want to be part of, and do it with them, because be a lone designer, oh, okay, one small step, okay, but the sustainable change design, no way, bro, sorry. Okay, yep, your turn. That's the part when you will take your keyboard, type down something in the Slido, they will read it to me and I will answer to you. Because I suppose one of the reactions is, oh, he's so awesome, now I'm speechless, good, thanks. The other reaction is, no, I think it's not true, I have my idea and I want to write it down. So do it, I will discuss it. It's fine. In normal case, we can discuss it right there, but let's play the game with there's someone behind. So, do we have questions?
Not really.
Not really, I thought so. I thought so, you just... Yeah, it means, okay, it means I'm so great that you don't have a questions, or it was so bad that you don't have a questions. But as we already know, it's in my mind, so I'm great. Okay, do you have something right now?
Okay, yeah.
Oh, awesome, thank you.
No questions, no.
Oh, come on, guys. Okay. So, ask your question.
No, I don't have.
You didn't hear that, or what?
No, I don't have questions.
Oh, okay, I got it. Never mind. In such case, thanks for listening, and maybe type it down below the video, and maybe, but just maybe, someone will answer. So, have a good night, fellas. See ya.
And yeah, just want to now invite everyone. As the last move for this night, we will have discussion, a panel.
Oh, discussion panel,
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
So in that case, I will put this down. we will need it probably.
So yeah, I just want to start this from like the continuation of the question from Mako Ueda.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. After that, she asked, like, she continued, like, from what I understood, digital transformation has an indirect and often intangible impact on such a massive problem that goes beyond the field of UX. With that being said, how do we get buy-in from unwilling stakeholders to start transforming business? For example, by incorporating different stakeholders, sustainability KPIs, or restoring systems.
Usually you don't. That's the stuff Jezevec was talking about for the last half an hour. Basically, you can try to do guerrilla, but use all the stuff he mentioned.
Okay.
If she heard it.
I think she heard, yeah.
She's still with us. If I understand the question correctly, it's about how to address the stakeholders that don't want to be addressed,
exactly,
or that are opposite to your idea. Well, I deeply believe that it's about the long, patient journey towards them, and it takes time. For example, in Pábení we worked like a year on a project, and after a year you can see some tiny little change in the behavior of the focus group. So yeah, it takes quite a lot of time.
Yeah. One thing, it was a question that he made for you about that sometimes it's hard to start a project with sustainability in mind, but afterwards when they see that it can be used as like a marketing, a promotion way of doing that, people embrace it. Do you think that this is like the true game changer, like that people will start to see like as a buzzword, to see sustainability as a buzzword? Or not, like, and this can lead to this, like, to more stakeholders accepting this.
Yeah, I actually think that almost nobody cares about sustainability. Like, it's a frequently used buzzword with actually no meaning. Like, almost nobody knows what it is. And people care about some specific things, like they care about decent work, or they care about the money. Somebody cares about the environment, like are the forests okay, or is the water clean? But nobody cares about the sustainability as such. So I believe that if you want to do some change, you really need to know what kind of change, in which department of the sustainability or the regenerative design you want to move some things.
Okay.
Does it make sense?
Yeah, it makes. Anything from you?
I think the biggest problem is that for the person, the climate change, fighting for the planet, which we have only one, is fear. It's nothing else. It's not a passion to build a better planet. It's a fear losing it. And the fear is quite awesome trigger, but the more people are in a group, the lesser is fear. Basically, there are lots of distraction, and especially in the business, there are lots of other distractions, like, you know, a coffee machine, or the guy with his cool YouTube video, or the random dog on the floor. And somehow, if the fear is not enough and imminent in every single moment, you focus on something which is more important to you, because you can't live the whole life in a fear. Your own brain don't want to live in a fear. So you're trying to overlay the fear with something else. That's the reason why so many people don't want to believe in a climate change, because they're afraid that they will be living in a fear. If you tell the most people that once they get the kids, the rest of their life will be living in a fear forever, they probably won't get the kids. That's the reason why we won't tell them. But this is the problem with the sustainability, because it's nothing really like, hey, I want to do this, because it's not the prime passion. It's not about sex or power, or it's not a positive motivation. And if fear to single individual is working, but fear for organization is not enough, and the fear from failure and fear from not to be successful in the business is a stronger motivation than the fear for the planet. Because, you know, in Czech we have a saying that the shared is closer than the code. Like you first take, and that's the reason why I talk about the neurolinguistic, because if you don't know what triggers the people, it's really difficult to convince them.
Okay. Okay, anything to add? Because I just have a question here. So, you said that, okay, I agree that the fear is, like, I think the most powerful, yeah, it's the strongest trigger for this. But I will insist a bit, like, what if we turn this into a marketing thing? Because people, we know that a lot of people are choosing companies that have a better, like, that treat the environment better than the others. So, yeah, can we, like, trigger them not for this, but for the money?
Yeah, sure. Okay. It will work only till certain threshold, because it would work as a market differentiator. So not anybody, there couldn't be a situation when everybody does it as a marketing thing, but yeah.
Yeah. For me, it's about making the sustainability or the regenerative approach a new norm. And I think it's happening. When you see the numbers of, like, eco-based companies, for the past 3 years, they skyrocket. And the theme is very visible, like in the very public space. Yeah. So, yeah, I think that fear is not the ultimate motivator to really change your day-to-day behavior, but the new norm, like everybody else is doing this, so I'm normal, I will do it as well, like wear a mask. Okay. I think here is where the change happens. That so many people do it, so I can do it as well, because I will not feel that I'm the somebody who disrupts the...
Yep. So if they see that other companies can earn money working that way, they will do the same. They will see that, okay, it doesn't hurt, so maybe I should try.
This is exactly what, for example, INCEAN in Czech Environment or Ellen MacArthur Foundation in the World Environment does. They bring good, inspirational stories of companies that are successful in this field, and they tell the story to people. Okay,
so it's good. You all agree with that. So yeah, you are quite optimistic. Totally. For the future. Okay, this is good. This is a good thing. Yeah. Because this is a good thing.
Okay, from the psychological approach, there are two big, let's say, movement in mind. First is the hunger for certainty. We definitely need to be certain that this will be a new thing. And of course, the let's say marketing view or public opinion view is definitely something which convinces us that, okay, this is now new normal, so it somehow feed the hunger for certainty. Especially for the companies, is hunger for certainty really important, because they want to survive. Okay, it's evolution process. And the other thing is the fear of failure. which is stronger, of course, because it's a fear, not a hunger, but still the fear of failure is really strong. And if you are, there's a good book from Terry Pratchett called Eric. It's about mousies, intelligent mousies in Ankh-Morpork, and they have the really good saying, you have to be the second mouse. Because the first mouse gives a trap, and the second mouse gives a cheese. And it's exactly the same with every buzzword. If you are the first mouse, you get a trap. And you don't want to be the first one who will go with sustainability or eco or whatever, because it's too risky, and your hunger for certainty is not fulfilled, and the fear of failure is really big. So you need to be a little lunatic or enthusiastic or Elon Musk to just go there, and if you succeed, you are a hero. And if you don't succeed, which is most of the guys we don't know by name because they are not Elon Musk, and you just fail and die, and then someone else will come and get the idea and again and again. And once it becomes somehow at least a little bit standard, and it becomes a buzzword, which sustainability is right now, in that case, of course, people will join. It's easy. On the other hand, I'm sorry, I don't share so much enthusiasm. On the other hand, lots of people will join only by the pronunciation, we are eco, bio, whatever. Some of them will even fake it just to put their prices up. Like, you know, you buy it from random Polish guy, the grocery, and you pretend it's from your own garden, even if you're living on Southern Moravia, and probably there are no melons, but, you know, you try and convince them that it's the old family recipe, how to grow them up on the garden. So there will be lots of these scammers, which will lead, at the end, to big disappointment by the whole movement, which is typical with every movement, and lots of people will do exactly the opposite, just they are pissed off about something. It's the same story with a face cover mask right now, because people get so disillusioned that they thought that if they will wear the mask, it will beat the COVID. They are not clever enough to understand that it's a totally different story, but now they feel frustrated that they try the whole spring wearing the damn thing, and the COVID is still there. Fuck it, it doesn't work. And then it's a reason why they are really, really pissed off. Because they try to believe, and in the first step of movement, everyone has a face mask, but because we were so stupid that we allowed to put them out because we believed COVID disappeared, because this country has no leaders, yeah, that's the problem. But people are not disappointed, and this is what I'm afraid of, that lots of people will be disappointed about sustainability because they tried, you know, to sort the waste, to do all the green stuff, and the planet is still warming. You know, they believe that if they will do all the small steps we set, because it's maximum they can do, and 5 years later there will be tsunami in Netherlands, they will feel like, hey, they cheated on us. We tried so hard, and it still didn't work. And this disillusion moment will be really painful. We have to be prepared for it.
There's another thing that's connected to it, and that's that the human mind isn't built to think in those kind of temporal terms we're looking at right now. Okay, the planet will warm up for next, I don't know, 150 years? 2-3 generations? Are we able to compute that and to like conform and sustain our behavior to it? No, but we should start talking about it. We should start thinking about how can we do the nudges to go there.
Sure, I just don't believe the masses will do that. Elite will do that, not the mass.
Yeah. I just wanted to add one thing to the change in a corporate world. I really believe that even small changes, when the companies are dipping their toes into the water of sustainability, are very important. Yep. And sometimes we were talking about, oh, this is greenwashing, this is so bad. But sometimes, even though I see it's kind of greenwashy thing, like we planted trees for $1, let's say, in some kind of companies. Okay. Or H&M, they are doing this, we are collect the clothes, but we are still producing like enormous amount of clothes. but when the companies are trying small changes, and of course they market it, that they do it, still I think it's very important that they at least have these tendencies, and they can try how it will work and dip a toe and say, oh, it's not so bad, maybe we can make it a little bit more than just CSR project, maybe we can incorporate it a little bit more into our strategy. And this is the way how the companies can change. It will not happen like one day there is a brand new way of doing business. This is probably the change we can see right now, and I think we have to be a little bit supportive and a little bit patient with these greenwashing tendencies, because they doesn't have to be that bad.
Yep. It's research by trial and error.
Yeah,
basically.
It's the same as feminism.
Let's not get to that.
Okay. Just one thing.
Always Black Lives Matter. Okay.
Yeah.
But it's basically same second level citizenship. So.
And now you are the old uncle.
No. I'm on your side. It was just a joke. It was a joke, guys. You know.
No white male.
Yeah, it wasn't mansplaining. No, it was just, just joking, as usual. It's a Klaus family joking.
So the way I see, like what people want is to have like good products in their home. Mm-hmm. So, for example, with the organic vegetables, is something that usually they are better, they are tasty, and it's better. The problem is that they are more expensive.
Yeah.
So the thing is, do you think that we can really balance like the quality with the price? Because this is something that sustainability fails, I would say, yeah. Because it is more costly to be sustainable.
Yeah. Just briefly
okay.
from me,
yeah.
I think this is one of the biggest challenges we will face, and it's not only about the good products, it's about almost everything. Like when we transform more services into shared economy, there will be massive amount of people, the marginalized groups, like the lower income families, they will not possess those goods they can share, and they will not possess the money to rent something. So they will be like left behind. And even now, these regions, the whole regions of people, they know it and they feel it and they are very angry, and this is why we have populism in this country and almost everywhere in the world. So really letting nobody behind is one of the key ingredients, and I don't think nobody knows how to actually achieve it.
Again, I would turn to like all design disciplines and urban planning. What you're explaining is basically the same as gentrification, but in a different form. It could be solved by similar processes, but I know nothing about it, so that's just...
But it's a huge systematic change.
It's a huge systematic change, but you see the systematic pattern repeating over and over and over again there, so...
I think one thing is the systemic approach from the governments, especially what they are supporting or not. I still don't understand why the beef meat is cheaper than cauliflower, but it's because of the big state impact. It's not done by designers, it's done by dummies, basically, or lobbyists, okay. And, but on the other hand, it's not true that it's more expensive. I just will say one example for everything. Yeah? If you go to Kaufland, you can complain about how apples are really expensive. I tell you, the whole last summer or beginning of the autumn, we're going all around the country trying to find the geocaches, and trust me, you can't do anything to feed yourself from the fallen apples all around, and most of them will just rotten there. The same with a plum, same with walnuts. So if you really want to eat for free in Czech Republic, You will be probably able to do it even if you won't steal from anybody, and it's cheaper than go to Kaufland. So basically, it's not more expensive, it's a different way, different perspective how to do it. If you will do it on your own garden, it will be cheaper than to buy it from somewhere. If you, okay, have at least the piece of land, but on the other hand, even if you claim some piece of land which is basically no one's, and there is no judge, you still have a chance to do it. And lots of people doing it this way, this guerrilla gardening, and it somehow works. I understand that it's not a systemic change, of course. I just want to say, to make it as a taught food, that it can be done a different way. And in the beginning, because you start with premise that families want to buy something and it's expensive, but I just want to say that the reason of the human life isn't to buy anything. That's what we were convinced by the advertisement. Okay. The reason of our living is basically to survive, reproduce ourselves, and basically live a happy and lazy life. It's what really in us as a human species, you know, we basically lazy bastards who just like to eat, sleep, and fuck and shit, okay, and that's it. So everything else is just a good systematic design and a big advertisement, and it's up to you to living in a system or try to handle it somehow. Or every one of us, of course, it's up to you at the first point.
Yeah, this is a really good vision, because we really don't need everything that we have. Of course, it's good to have some comfort and so on, but I agree that we can all like reduce at least a bit like what we consume every day and every hour.
You can have same awesome time on the bank of the river as you have on a beach by the sea, with less people, less less noise all around, and for cheaper money every single day through the summer. But you still somehow try to get to Croatia and catch a COVID, so it's your choice. Oh, not yours, but theirs.
Everyone's choice. Yeah.
There was one thing that started in this discussion, and that's there are two approaches you can take here. One is like the top-down and bottom-up. Jezevec mentioned the bottom-up perfectly, and Jana mentioned bottom like the top-down. And
she's a designer.
Yeah, but one thing that resonated with me really well was that the absence of like systemic change and systemic thinking in not just government, but all the public life and planning and stuff. But I think that is going to be a big market for design in upcoming years, hopefully.
It would be like.
But I think it's exactly the same in biggest corporation. If you don't have a leader who pushes the change, who really fights for the change on the first place, let's say Barack Obama, and you don't have leaders, people have nobody to follow. Yeah. And that's the big problem, because if there will arise some sucker with basically only idea to make himself a richer, just realize mostly it's a man and not a woman, right? And it won't work. We need, I'm feminist, but you know, people usually don't recognize it on the first sight. But this is the problem, and we need those leaders desperately. Desperately, and we don't have them. And the other thing is, if you're trying to be a good leader, you are able to be leader of yourself so strongly that you don't want to cheat, you don't want to lie, you don't want to do all these manipulation techniques. You even hate the word manipulation, even if you would like to manipulate the word for the better, but you're trying to do the Mirek Dushin's way, and it's difficult if all others are just following all along the way. And it's about the compromise, and it's about politics. I was talking about that, if you remember. But without the leaders, we are just fucked up.
How do you get leaders? How do you get good leaders?
No. You can't get good leaders. Those leaders have to come there and say, hey, follow me. Okay, I'm 40 now, so ask me this question 15 years later. It's my benchmark when I will go to politics. So in that case, I will count on you. Since then, I'm just a father.
Don't you think that this is too utopic? Like to have like leaders all around the world that cares about like the environment, people, and everything else? Because you can have 1 or 2 or 3 maybe, but like for all the countries to like move the road forward to sustainability?
The reason why we're sitting here is because someone made the first move and said, I'll do this, I will arrange this, I'll put energy into this, and it happened. We participate, and for us it was easy to follow. It was kind of pleasure, thanks. But it was easy. And it's much easier for those who just watching at home. But at the first there was a leader. And in the whole culture of humankind, last 14,000 years, nothing happened without leaders. Good leaders, bad leaders, strong leaders, weak leaders, but always there was a leader. And even here now they are a leader. Okay, maybe our culture leader is dead probably now, maybe even last year he's dead, and it's just mummy they showed us in a TV. But we have leaders which we deserve, we vote for them. And on the other hand, it's my father's favorite question. Okay, I won't vote for that guy, so tell me who should I vote for? And to be honest, I don't know if I even know the name of the other strong leaders. So that's the problem, because they are basically invisible, even if they are trying quite hard. But we don't know them, and that's difficult. And it's about manipulation, as I said before. Making a good propaganda, Joseph Goebbels approves.
Okay.
And now we are very far from
we went there in politics.
No, Joseph had an awesome design. Trust me, every single designer now use the font, use the colors, use the style of everything. Yeah. The Panzer is still a brand, and it's just a stupid tank. On the losing side.
I would very much like to get down to the former topic, which was the UX design, because if we stop here, we need to change the whole world, and there are very few leaders to help us in this. But for the designers that watch this and who sit here, I think that the case is quite visible, that we have to support those projects and those companies that are already aiming for the better solutions, or they are willing to participate in this movement. And if we do this, and if we put our effort into sustainable regenerative design projects, then we can really do some positive change. And if we spend our time designing things that don't do this good, if I say politely, then we are probably wasting our time, and it's our choice.
Yeah, I will just complete with one thing that I had. I think in the first classes that I had at university, that we as designers are influencers. So we have the power to influence people to move forward, to go to the good place, and we can. It's not only on us, of course. It will be just megalomaniac, but it's just something that we can put our efforts to do some change. So I think that it can start for this, and then we can, of course, it will pass through politics for sure. It doesn't. It's impossible to not pass through it, but it's something that we have the power to at least start it.
Yes, we are the politics.
Yeah. Okay.
At least a bit now.
Good talk.
Okay.
Nice talk. So, I hope that you liked it. So, yeah, thank you very much for your time, for being with us here. And that's it. Hope you enjoyed, and if you have some questions, you can write down. We will make a way of answering them. Okay? Ciao.
Bye. Bye.